The autumn rain hammered against the glass doors of the Grandview Resort and Spa in downtown Seattle, each drop a tiny percussion against the gleaming entrance. Inside the marble-floored lobby, golden light spilled from crystal chandeliers, casting warm reflections across polished surfaces that spoke of luxury and exclusivity. Marcus Chen pulled his hood lower as he stepped through the revolving doors, water dripping from his worn jacket onto the immaculate floor. He'd flown in from Singapore on a red-eye, deliberately choosing to arrive unannounced, without the usual entourage or advance notice. After 18 months abroad expanding his hospitality empire across Asia, he wanted to see his flagship property with fresh eyes, the eyes of an ordinary guest. The young woman at the front desk, her name tag reading Brittany, glanced up from her computer screen. Her welcoming smile flickered and died like a candle in wind. "Can I help you?" The words were polite, but her tone carried an edge that could cut glass. Marcus approached the desk, pulling out his phone. "Yes, I have a reservation." "Chen." "Marcus Chen." Brittany's fingers moved across her keyboard with deliberate slowness, her lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm not seeing anything under that name." "That's strange. I booked it myself 3 days ago. Deluxe suite, checking in today." The desk clerk's eyes traveled from his scuffed sneakers to his wrinkled jacket, lingering on the backpack slung over his shoulder. "Sir, I think there's been some kind of mistake. We're fully booked, and even if we weren't." She paused, weighing her words. "The Grandview caters to a very specific clientele. Our rooms start at $500 per night." A middle-aged man in an impeccably tailored suit materialized beside Brittany Douglas Hartwell, according to his badge, assistant manager. He assessed Marcus with a single sweeping glance that somehow managed to be both quick and thorough. "Is there a problem here?" His voice carried the kind of authority that expected immediate deference. "This gentleman claims he has a reservation," Brittany said, her hesitation before gentleman speaking volumes. Douglas turned to Marcus with a practiced smile that never reached his eyes. "I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Perhaps you're thinking of a different hotel? There's a Quality Inn about 3 miles from here that might be more suitable to your budget." Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he'd experienced countless times before business school, before his first venture capital success, before he'd built an empire. The invisible barrier that rose up based on appearance, on assumptions, on prejudice. "Check again, please." The reservation should be under Marcus Chen, checking in November 3rd. Douglas made a show of examining the computer screen, though his body language suggested he'd already made his decision. "I'm afraid we have nothing. And as my colleague mentioned, we're completely full. Perhaps I can call the Quality Inn for you?" "That won't be necessary." Marcus's voice remained calm, but something in his tone made both employees straighten slightly. At that moment, an elderly couple approached the desk, designer luggage in tow. Brittany's demeanor transformed instantly, her smile bright and genuine. "Welcome to the Grandview. Checking in." Marcus stepped aside, watching the seamless efficiency with which the couple was processed, how their reservation appeared instantly, how Douglas personally offered to have their bags taken to their room and recommended the hotel's renowned rooftop restaurant. When they departed toward the elevators, Marcus tried once more. "I'd like to speak with your general manager." Douglas's smile turned condescending. "The general manager is extremely busy. And frankly, sir, I think your time would be better spent finding a hotel that welcomes people who look like me." Marcus finished quietly. "I didn't say that." Douglas's face flushed. "But we do maintain certain standards here. Now, if you're not going to book a room and again, we're fully booked, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We can't have people loitering in the lobby." Loitering. The word hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus pulled out his phone again, this time making a call. It was answered on the first ring. "Rachel? It's Marcus. I need you to do something for me." He kept his voice low, his eyes never leaving Douglas's face. "Clear my schedule for tomorrow morning. And call an emergency meeting of all Grandview staff, front desk, housekeeping, management, everyone, for 9 a.m. sharp in the main conference room." Douglas and Brittany exchanged confused glances. "Who are you calling?" Douglas demanded. Marcus ignored him, continuing his conversation. Yes, all of them. And Rachel? Pull the last 6 months of guest satisfaction surveys, complaint logs, and any incidents reported by guests of color. I want everything ready by morning. He paused. No, I'm fine. Just disappointed. See you tomorrow. He ended the call and looked at Douglas directly. You'll understand everything in the morning. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Douglas sputtered, but if you don't leave immediately, I'll call security. That won't be necessary. I'm leaving. Marcus turned toward the door, then paused. One question, do you enjoy your job here? Douglas drew himself up to his full height. I've been with the Grandview for 8 years. I take great pride in maintaining the standards that make this hotel what it is. I see. Marcus's expression was unreadable. Then I suppose we'll see you in the morning. As he walked back into the rain, Marcus heard Brittany's nervous laugh. What was that about? Some kind of con artist, Douglas replied confidently, probably hoping to intimidate us into giving him a free room. Don't worry about it. Marcus checked into a Marriott down the street, spending the evening reviewing financial reports and internal memos from the Grandview's operations. What he found made his jaw tighten. 3 formal complaints in the past 4 months from guests who'd experienced similar treatment. 2 excellent front desk employees who'd quit, both citing uncomfortable workplace culture in their exit interviews. Revenue numbers that were strong but trending downward in a market where his competitors were growing. He'd built his business on a simple philosophy: luxury should be about the quality of service, not the color of a guest's skin or the price of their clothes. Every person who walked through his hotel doors deserved to feel welcomed, valued, respected. It was why he'd started in hospitality in the first place. After a dozen humiliating experiences in his 20s had shown him how deep prejudice could run, even in spaces that claimed to be sophisticated and worldly. At exactly 8:45 a.m., Marcus walked into the Grandview through the staff entrance, wearing one of his tailored Armani suits, every inch the CEO he was. Rachel Kim, his executive assistant, met him with a tablet and a worried expression. Everyone's assembled, she said. Marcus, what happened? You'll see. He straightened his tie. Are the board members on video conference? Standing by. Good. Let's begin. The conference room fell silent as Marcus entered. Approximately 40 staff members filled the space, housekeepers in their uniforms, kitchen staff still in their chef's whites, front desk personnel, and management. Douglas Hartwell stood near the front, his expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror as recognition slowly set in. Brittany's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus took his place at the head of the conference table, where the video screen showed 3 board members watching intently. Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Marcus Chen. I founded this hotel chain 12 years ago, and I currently serve as CEO. The Grandview was my first property, and it holds a special place in my heart. That's why what happened yesterday concerns me so deeply. He pressed a button on the tablet, and the wall screen lit up with his photo, the official CEO portrait that hung in the corporate office. Yesterday evening, I arrived at this hotel as a guest. I had a confirmed reservation. I was tired, wet from the rain, and looking forward to sleeping in a comfortable bed. Instead, I was profiled, dismissed, and told to try a budget motel 3 miles away, all because of how I looked. The room was utterly silent. Douglas had gone pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Brittany looked like she might be sick. Now, I could make this about me, Marcus continued, his voice steady but hard. I could talk about how humiliating it was, how it felt to be judged and found wanting in my own hotel. But the truth is, I'm not the victim here. The real victims are every guest of color who's been treated this way, every person who's been made to feel less than because someone decided they didn't look like they belonged. He pulled up a document on the screen, the guest complaints Rachel had compiled. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, an African-American couple celebrating their anniversary, were questioned extensively about their ability to pay and asked for a deposit 3 times the normal amount. Mr. Patel, a software executive from Mumbai, was told all rooms were booked despite having a confirmed reservation, then watched as a walk-in guest was immediately accommodated. Ms. Rodriguez, a successful attorney, was followed by security through the lobby because someone assumed she was acting suspicious. With each example, more staff members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked genuinely shocked, others stared at the floor. These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns. And they end today. Marcus's gaze swept the room. Mr. Hartwell, Ms. Beaumont, please stand. Douglas and Brittany rose on shaky legs. You're both terminated, effective immediately. Your personal belongings will be packed and sent to you. HR will be in touch regarding final payment and benefits. Marcus's tone was matter-of-fact, but the words landed like hammers. You're being dismissed not because you made a mistake, but because you revealed something about your character. You saw someone you deemed unworthy and decided that your prejudice was more important than basic human decency or basic business practice. Brittany started to cry. Douglas opened his mouth to protest, then closed it, seeming to realize the futility. But firing 2 people doesn't solve the systemic problem, Marcus continued. So here's what's going to happen. Every single employee in this hotel, from the newest hire to the longest-serving manager, will undergo mandatory anti-bias training starting next week. Guest services will be audited monthly by an independent firm. We're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind. He paused, letting that sink in. I also want to address something broader. Some of you might think luxury means exclusivity, that providing high-end service means catering only to people who look or dress a certain way. That's not luxury, that's snobbery. Real luxury is making every guest feel like they're the most important person in the building, regardless of whether they're wearing Gucci or Gap. If you can't do that, then you're in the wrong industry, and you're certainly in the wrong hotel. A hand went up in the back, one of the housekeepers, a woman in her 50s named Maria who'd been with the hotel since opening day. Yes, Maria. Mr. Chen, I just want to say some of us have been trying to raise concerns about these issues for a long time. We've filled out reports, we've talked to management. It felt like no one was listening. Marcus's expression softened slightly. I hear you, and I apologize. That's a failure of leadership, including my own. I've been focused on expansion and numbers instead of culture and values. That changes now. I'm appointing an ombudsman, someone independent whose staff and guests can report concerns to directly, bypassing the usual management chain. And I'm committing to quarterly town halls where any employee can voice concerns directly to me. He looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as he could. I got into this business because I believed that travel, that hospitality, could be a force for connection and understanding. Hotels should be places where people from all walks of life can come together, where differences are celebrated, not punished. If we can't create that here, then we've failed at our most fundamental mission. Another manager raised his hand tentatively. What happens to those of us who remain? You do better, Marcus said simply. You hold yourselves accountable, you hold each other accountable, and you build the culture this hotel should have had from the beginning. I'll be staying here for the next 2 weeks, working alongside you, eating in the staff cafeteria, observing operations. Not as an intimidation tactic, but because I want to understand what's working and what isn't. And I want you to understand that I'm invested in making this right. He clicked to a new slide showing a photo of himself from his early 20s, standing outside a dingy apartment building. This was me at 23, right after I was rejected from a job interview because the manager told me I didn't fit the company image. I was qualified, educated, prepared, but I wasn't white, and that was enough to close the door. I remember thinking that if I ever had power, I'd use it to make sure no one else had to feel that way. His voice grew quieter, more personal. Yesterday reminded me why that promise matters. Why this work matters. We're not just running a hotel, we're creating experiences that shape how people see the world and themselves. When you make someone feel welcome, you tell them they matter. When you turn them away, you tell them they don't belong. That kind of message has consequences that ripple far beyond these walls. Marcus closed his tablet and stood in front of the podium, no longer the distant CEO but a person sharing his truth. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers, or that fixing this will be easy. Bias is deeply ingrained in systems, in cultures, sometimes in ourselves without us even realizing it. But the first step is acknowledging the problem. The second is committing to do better. And the third is following through, every single day, with every single guest. He glanced at Douglas and Brittany, who stood frozen by the door where security had quietly positioned themselves. Mr. Hartwell, Ms. Beaumont, I hope you learn from this. I hope you reflect on why you made the choices you did, and I hope your next employer gets better versions of you. But you won't get the opportunity to represent this brand any longer. Security escorted them out. The door closed with a soft click. For everyone else, Marcus continued, this is your wake-up call. But it's also an opportunity. We're going to rebuild this culture together, and those who embrace this change will be part of something meaningful. Those who can't or won't will need to find other opportunities. He smiled for the first time that morning, a genuine expression that softened his features. Now, I know this was heavy. Take 30 minutes, process this, talk to each other. Then let's get back to work and start showing our guests what the Grandview can really be. Questions? A young man in a bellhop uniform raised his hand. Mr. Chen, what made you decide to test us like this? To come in disguised? I wasn't in disguise, Marcus corrected gently. I was just dressed casually. And that's the point, I shouldn't need to wear a $3,000 suit to be treated with basic respect. Neither should anyone else. I wanted to see what really happens when someone doesn't fit your assumptions about what a guest should look like. Unfortunately, I found out. Over the following 2 weeks, Marcus kept his promise. He worked the front desk during a busy check-in period, noting the subtle ways staff treated guests differently based on appearance. He joined housekeeping rounds, listening to their stories about how they were often invisible to guests who'd complain loudly if a towel was folded wrong. He sat in on kitchen meetings, learning that the diverse culinary staff had ideas for menu improvements that had been dismissed for years. He also met with the guests who'd filed complaints, personally apologizing and offering them complimentary stays. Most were gracious, though one, Mr. Johnson, challenged him directly. Mr. Chen, with all due respect, you fired 2 people and gave a speech. How do I know this is real change and not just damage control? Marcus didn't bristle at the question. You don't. Not yet. Change has to be proven over time. But I can tell you that I've restructured our hiring practices to prioritize diversity. I've tied management bonuses to guest satisfaction metrics that are broken down by demographics. And I've committed $5 million from the company to hospitality scholarships for students from underrepresented communities. He met Mr. Johnson's skeptical gaze. You have every right not to trust me. Trust is earned. All I'm asking is that you give us the chance to earn it back. By the end of his 2 weeks at the Grandview, Marcus had instituted changes that would ripple across his entire hotel chain: mandatory quarterly anti-bias audits, a revised code of conduct with clear consequences, and a guest advocacy program that empowered any staff member to escalate concerns about discrimination. On his last morning, he gathered the staff one final time. I want to thank you for your patience with me these past 2 weeks. I know my presence has been disruptive. But I've learned a lot, and I hope you have too. Remember, hospitality isn't about buildings or amenities. It's about people. It's about seeing the humanity in everyone who walks through those doors and honoring it. If you can do that, you're not just good at your job, you're making the world a little bit better. As he packed his belongings to return home, Marcus paused at the lobby window, watching the staff interact with an elderly woman who'd just arrived. The new front desk manager, promoted from within, greeted her warmly, personally carrying her bag to the desk, chatting easily about her journey. Then a young man in baggy jeans and a hoodie entered, shaking rain from his hair. Marcus tensed slightly, old instincts surfacing. The front desk manager's smile never wavered. Welcome to the Grandview. Are you checking in today? Marcus released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. It was a start. Real change wouldn't happen overnight. There would be setbacks, resistance, people who resented being told their attitudes needed adjusting. But watching that young man be treated with the same courtesy as every other guest, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. He'd built an empire on the belief that everyone deserved dignity. Yesterday had shown him how far he still had to go. But today was proof that the journey was possible. As he walked out the front entrance for the last time that trip, The doorman, an older gentleman named Robert, called out to him. "Mr. Chen, I just wanted to say thank you. In 30 years of hospitality work, I've never seen an owner do what you did. It means something." Marcus shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for staying. For believing we could be better." "We are better," Robert said with certainty. "Today, we're already better than we were 2 weeks ago." And in the end, Marcus thought as he climbed into the car that would take him to the airport, that was all any of them could ask for, to be better today than yesterday, and better tomorrow than today. The work of justice was never finished. But it could always be continued.
Hello everyone. If you are enjoying this video and finding it helpful, don't forget to support our channel. Please subscribe to our channel, press the like button, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos. We regularly upload amazing, informative, and entertaining content just for you. Your support means a lot to us and motivates us to bring even better content in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and welcome to our growing community.